Here we go. Who's my favorite student? Is it me? Sadly, right now, it's good old Anne. How high is the cliff? So I said they're asking me to find that, and I even wrote that without actually reading the rest of the question. Then I said to myself, okay, we're dropped. That means VI is 0, unless they use the word dropped, but also clearly have an initial velocity. Oh, then they didn't really drop it. They threw it, but they might have done bad grammar. And it looks like I have a time of 14.5 seconds. You may or may not want your green sheet out. I don't know. I'm looking for an equation that has a D and A, a VI, and a T in it. There is one. Which one? I think, Cole, this one works. Why didn't I bother writing the VIT? VIT is 0. So if you don't want to, you don't need to write it. If you did, that's fine. But here is yet a special subcase of all of these different variations of the equations that we're looking at. It's going to be 0.5. It's going to be negative 9.8. It's going to be 14.5 squared. Am I going to get a negative or a positive answer here, by the way? Should I get a negative answer? Does that make sense? And really, key idea, and this goes to a question someone was asking me, I think Misha was asking me, the D in all of these equations isn't a distance. It really is a displacement, and I've been sloppy in my notation. When you're doing all of these equations, it doesn't care what path you took, even if your path did something like that. All it cares about is where did you start and where did you end. It's a displacement. And that's why some of you were wondering about the questions later on in the quiz where I launched something in the air. Don't I have to go all the way to the top and then go all the way to the bottom? No, the D that you're getting is the displacement and takes care of that quite nicely. It's going to be 0.5 times negative 9.8 times 14.5 squared. And I get, ooh, that's a high cliff. Negative 1,030.225. I'm going to write negative 1,030 meters. Now, it's technically a height, so if you made it positive, I'm good with that. If you have either negative 1,030 meters or positive 1,030 meters or negative 1,030.225, I went to 3 sig figs because of the 14.5, so that's 3 sig figs, 3 sig figs. You get 2 out of 2. If you did not, I would give you 1 mark for the equation, half mark for the numbers, and a half mark for either of those answers. B, what's the impact velocity of the cannonball? What isn't the impact velocity? 0. What isn't V final? 0. This is asking me to find V final. However, I think, Emily, this is the same situation as A. I'm not going to relist everything. I think it's still at the bottom of the cliff. So I'm looking for an equation. I think I would choose to go with VF equals VI plus AT. That'll work. Although really, I could have just written that. Why? Why could I just write VF equals AT? VI is 0. You could use your answer from part A and use D equals VF squared minus VI, VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD, square root. You could get there from the D equals bracket VI plus VF over 2 times T and get the VF by itself. So you know what? Any equation would work. This was the cleanest. It's going to be negative 9.8 times 14.5. Also, it's using numbers that they gave me, so I know that if I got A wrong, I can still get B right. It's like good test writing. Can I do this in my head? The last block of the day. Get negative 142.1. All right, negative 142 units meters per second. Why negative? Yeah, it has to be negative. If you're missing negative, I'm taking a half mark off. If you're missing the units, I'm taking a half mark off. Otherwise, I would give you 1 mark for the equation, whether or not you had the VI there, or whatever equation you chose to use. Half mark. Half mark. C. What's the velocity of the cannonball after 6.4 seconds? Now we've got a new question, so I'll read DFIC. It definitely wants me to find a V final. V initial was 0. A was negative 9.8. You know what? I'm going to use exactly the same equation. I'm going to use VF equals VI plus AT. VI is 0. Can't make me write it. So it's going to be negative 9.8 times 6.4. And I get negative 62.72. Technically, I guess I should go to 2 sig figs because of that 6.4. So, okay. Meters, but I'll take either answer. Meters per second, Mr. Duick. Again, 1 mark, half mark for either of those answers. D, how far has the ball fallen? That's asking me to find D. I still know VI is 0. I still know A is negative 9.8. This time T is 8 seconds. Which equation? I'm going to use D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. By the way, Christian, you could also use these to find... Whoop, I didn't want to erase that. You could also use these three to find VF, and then use VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AT. You have all sorts of options. Now we're at the stage, Oliver, where I'm saying pick the shortest, cleanest way to get there. Mine is going to be D equals a half AT squared. VI is 0. So it's going to be 0.5 negative 9.8 times 8. Oh, that one. Oh, no, squared, Mr. Duick. Can I do that one in my head? 8 squared is 64. Half of 64 is 32. 32 times 9.8. It's going to be 320. Take away 6.4. Is it 320, 314? Is it 313 point? Negative 313.6?
Yeah.
Hey, I'll take that one. And if I wanted to do fussy sig figs, I would go 320 meters. I would go to 2 sig figs, and I would say heights are technically scalar positive, but the D is a vector displacement. As before, 1 mark, half mark, half mark. And then I would go to the next page. Brian, what's A asking me to find? Yep. I'm in free fall even on the way up. So I'm slowing down while traveling up. That would be a negative acceleration. VI is 36, and now I run into a problem. I only have 2 things. I need 3. There must be something else that they expect me to reason my way towards. What else do I know? Yeah. At the top, for a split second, we've come to a stop. Oh, so then I can go T equals VF minus VI all over A. It's going to be 0 minus 36 all over negative 9.8. Time, scalar, always positive. If I get a negative answer, I've messed up. Here I'm going to get 0 minus 36 divided by negative 9.8. And I get 3.67? 3.7 seconds. I'm going to, well, I'll write 3.7 seconds, but I'll store this on my calculator. As before, 1 mark, half mark, half mark. Probably other ways you could have found T, but that's what I would have gone with. It's the cleanest. What's the maximum height reached by the ball? I think now it's asking me to find a displacement. But we're still at the top, so I think, Maggie, I'm not going to relist everything. I'll just keep it on the screen. I'm looking for an equation that has a D in it. I could use time if I wanted to, but I'm going to see if I can find D using A, VI, and VF, and there is one. It's going to be D equals VF squared minus VI squared all over 2A. It's going to be 0 squared minus 36 squared all over 2 times negative 9.8. brackets around the top, brackets around the bottom, 0 squared minus 36 squared all over 2 times negative 9.8. And I get, do you get 66.1? Should this answer be positive or negative? Are we above or below from where we started? I think we're above. So the positive doesn't freak me here. It makes me happy. Yes? One mark, half mark, half mark. Now the other way you could have done this is you could have used your answer from A and you could have gone D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. Now that means, Sierra, you're using your answer from part A, but this would be a situation where if I finish this test, if this is a test, early, I would go back to 2B and I would say 36 times 3.67347. There's my time value. Let's try that again, this time with the times in there. 30 VIT plus a half A T 3.67347 squared, and I should get really close to 66.1. The fact that I got the same answer that way means A must be right. Yay! So you can check your answers with a bit of cleverness. Mr. Duke, I found C really tough. Mateo, how many marks is part C worth? How many marks was B worth? How many marks was A worth? How many marks was D worth? 2 marks usually means you got to do some calculating. 1 mark, I'm usually hinting at you could do this without writing anything down in your head. What's the impact velocity? What's V final? Why negative 36? Because what goes up must come. And that works if you're starting and ending at the same height. Basically, if you're starting and ending on the ground, whatever you launch at, you'll hit at, if we're ignoring air resistance. And even with air resistance, it doesn't play a big difference. So, for 1 mark, negative 36, and I'll call that V final. That's what you hit the ground at. V impact, I guess you could call it that. How long is the ball in the air for? Oh, good question. Joel, what's D asking me to find? I know I caught you zoning out. My bad. Time. You have 2 ways you can do this one. One way is to find time to top. V final will be 0. And then double it to get time to top and bottom. Is that okay, Christy? I'm lazy. I'd rather get there in one fell swoop. I am going to use T equals VF minus VI over A. I know that VI was 36. I know that A was negative 9.8. What's V final? And that'll get me the total time of flight. If you let V final be 0, that would get you time to top, and you have to go times by 2 to get time back down. I'd rather get there in one step because I'm lazy. Negative 36 minus 36 divided by negative 9.8. You get 7.3469. How many sig figs should I do here, actually? 2? So I'll go 7.3 seconds. I don't think so. Now, did you use my method or did you find time to top and then double it?
Yes, I did.
So what you did then, you found time to top, you rounded that one off and then doubled it, and that's your mistake. I'll give you credit, but next time I'll take marks off. Never round off something that you're going to use to find a final answer. That's why you'll see often I'll carry like 5 or 6 extra sig figs if I know I'm going to use this answer later on. Is that okay? Same as before, by the way. 1 mark, half mark, half mark. Mateo, not Mateo, but Mateo, how many marks is E worth? Problem means I'm thinking you can do it in your head. Hey, Mateo, we're launching from the ground. How high are we when we started as a number? 0. We hit the ground. How high are we as a number when we finished? What's our change in position? What's our displacement? You can put 0 meters. I sometimes for the number 0 because there's nothing. I don't put units, but yeah, technically 0 meters. 1 mark. Turn the page. Looks like number 3, how high is the cliff? Wants me to find D. Looks like VI is 24. What if instead of straight up, what if it said straight down? What would VI be? Negative 24. Easy fix. Okay. I might give you a straight down on your test. I might give you a straight up on your test. I don't know. We're in free fall. And it looks like the time of flight is 12 seconds. Oh. This is really the same as number 1, except the VIT doesn't cancel. It's going to be VIT plus a half AT squared. It's going to be VI 24 T 12 plus a half negative 9.8 12 squared. 24 times 12 plus 0.5 times negative 9.8 times 12 squared. You get negative 417.6. I'll go negative 418. What's the negative telling me? We ended up below from where we started, so I'm not going to freak out. That does make sense. Negative 400, and what did I say, 18? Now, if you made that positive and you said the height is 418, full marks. In fact, I'd smile because technically height is a scalar, but the d that we're using is the vector. It's the displacement. As before, 1 mark for the equation, half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answer. Hannah, how many marks is B worth? 3? I'll bet you there's more than one step. I'll bet you have to find something and then do something with the thing you're going to find. It wants me to find the maximum height of the ball. Have I done that already? Well, I found the height of the cliff. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find how high the ball went above the cliff. I'll pretend I started on the ground. And then I'll add the cliff height to my answer. So I'm going to start out by saying, well, D equals where V final at the top is 0. V initial was 24. A negative 9.8. And if I do that, I can go D equals VF squared minus VI squared all over 2A. It's going to be 0 squared minus 24 squared all over 2 times negative 9.8. 0 squared minus 24 squared 2 times negative 9.8. And I get that I went 29.39. 29, Mr. Duick. Meters above the cliff. Not done yet. The height is going to be 29.39 plus 400 and what was it? 17.6 plus 417.6, and I get a total height above the ground. You get 447? One mark, half mark for getting that. That's a terrible 0.5. Half mark for realizing you had to add them together, and a half mark for the answer. But if you got the 447, full marks, 3 out of 3. Wants me to find V final. Is the answer 0? No. V initial is 24. A is negative 9.8. Emma, what did I write in brackets next to part A? Okay. Here's the first careful. Why is D not 92? Because it isn't. Why is D not 92? Yeah. So? Well, no. I don't need to worry about the straight up part. Yeah. What's negative? Dylan, are we ending up below from where we started? I don't need to worry about the going straight up part. This displacement, nature will take care of itself. Because what I'm really saying is, look, if I start going up at 24 meters per second, if I accelerate down at negative 9.8, and I end up 92 meters below from where I started, how fast will I be hitting the ground? It'll take care of all that. It'll take care of the going up and coming back down portion. It's really quite nice. I'm going to look for then, I think, Vf squared equals Vi squared plus 2AD, except it gives me Vf squared. How do I get rid of a squared? So I'm going to get Vf is going to be the square root of 24 squared plus 2 negative 9.8 negative 92. 24 squared plus 2 times negative 9.8 times negative 92. Square root of that. Answer button. And I get 48.8 meters per second. Technically 49 meters per second. Why must that be wrong? This is also, Emma, the second part of the careful. Why must this be wrong? Because it is wrong. Why must it be wrong? Yeah.
Because you have to use it in the next part.
Nope. It needs to be negative because when we're traveling in the ground, which way are we traveling? This is that equation that when you square root on your calculator, Dylan, your calculator will assume you always want the positive answer, which in math you almost always did. What's the square root of 9? 3. You really didn't care about the negative 3. But here, I think, Maggie, it's clear we want the negative answer. We have to overrule our calculator, and we have to insert a negative there. If you miss the negative, you lose a half mark. Speaking of half marks, I'll give you 1 mark for that, half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answer. Is that okay? That's why I wrote careful. There's 2 carefuls there. Now, this first one, if you miss it by... Oh, wrong button. If you miss it, by the way, if you miss the negative 92 and you put a positive there, when you square root, usually you'll get some kind of an error. In fact, I love the way my calculator phrases it. My calculator basically says to me, dude, get real. It's saying it's a non-real answer. Here's what it's saying. You told me you're accelerating down, but you ended up above from where we started. I can't do that. Can't do that. So if your calculator gives you an error, go check your signs. My first advice. How long until it hits the ground? That's a time value. I do know VF is negative 48.8. VI was 24. A was negative 9.8. Cool. I can go T equals VF minus VI over A, where VF is going to be negative 48.8. VI is going to be 24 all over negative 9.8. I'm not wild about that negative 48.8. I want to get this back on my calculator for starters. I want to carry a few extra sig figs. So instead of 48.8, I'll give you full marks if you did, but I should have really used 48.777. There's a nice spot to round off right there where there's a 0. So I'm going to go negative answer button. There's negative 48.777. minus 24 divided by negative 9.8. And if you carry this to its ultimate accuracy, you'll get 7.4 seconds. I'd take 7.3 or 7.5 seconds, but 7.4. Is that right? 7.4 seconds? As before, 1 mark for the equation, half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answer. Can you give yourself a lovely score out of 25? And if you need to come lawyer with me, now is the time.